Welcome to two public hearings tonight, and then that will be followed by our regular council meeting of Monday, August the 22nd. These public hearings are being held pursuant to Section 465 of the Local Government Act. All members of the public will be given a reasonable time to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaws that are the subject of these hearings. All information, correspondence, petitions, or reports that have been received by noon today concerning the subject bylaws have been circulated to Council and are available to the public as part of the meeting package. For each public hearing, staff will provide their report, followed by an opportunity for the applicant to speak. Members of the public who have pre-registered to speak have been added to the speakers list in the order that the requests were received. I will provide an opportunity for public comment according to the speakers list, followed by comment from those who have not registered. Anyone who has not pre-registered can still attend council chambers and wait to speak following those on the speakers list, or alternatively can electronically participate by calling the conference line during the live hearing at 778-907-2071 and entering meeting ID 506-489-9374 and passcode 485186. Speakers will be asked to state their name and civic address. Please note that all representations, whether written, in person, or electronic, are available to the public for viewing as part of the public record. Remarks will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker, and our corporate officer will be keeping us to that timeline and should include all of the relevant information in the presentation. Further opportunity will be afforded to all members of the public to speak a second or third time with new information only once all persons have had the opportunity to speak. Council may ask questions of staff, the applicant, and the public, but once the public hearings are over, no new information can be received. Council debate on the bylaws will take place during the regular council meeting following the conclusion of the public hearings. The corporate officer will now provide information on the notice of these public hearings.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So the notice of the public hearings was given by posting in the Summerland Review issues of August 11th and 18th and on the public notice board at Municipal Hall. Additionally, for public hearing number 1, 21 notices were mailed to owners and occupiers of surrounding properties on August 4th. And for public hearing number 2, 160 notices were mailed to owners and occupiers of surrounding properties on August 4th as well.
Thank you very much. And we'll get started with public hearing number 1. Zoning bylaw amendment for 1506 Laidlaw Street, bylaw number 2022-025, Z22-007.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the purpose of the zoning amendment bylaw subject to this public hearing is to change the zoning designation of 1506 Laidlaw Street. So this zoning amendment bylaw would change the zoning at the subject property from the residential large lot RSD2 zone to residential medium lot RSD1 zone. The purpose of this application is to allow for future subdivision of the property into 2 single-family residential lots. And the subject property is currently vacant with no prior development or structures. In the OCP, it is designated as a low-density residential, and the current is currently zoned RSD2. The proposal is to rezone the property from RSD2 to RSD1 to facilitate the future subdivision. And in comparing the 2 zones, the existing and the one proposed, the proposed RSD1 zone has similar regulations to the existing zone for building setbacks, height, and lot coverage. The lot area and lot width for subdivision are smaller in the proposed RSD1 zone, and there is also a higher allowable floor area ratio. The subject property is designated low-density residential and identified within the urban growth area in the district's official community plan. So directing infill growth to these residential areas is encouraged as there are existing services and they are located in proximity to amenities such as schools. The District of Summerland seeks to increase densities in areas designated low-density residential from 4 units per hectare up to 22 units per hectare to more efficiently use serviced land and to increase things like transit potential. So this proposal would increase density to approximately 18 units per hectare, which is in line with this objective. The subject property cannot currently be subdivided under the existing RSD2 zoning designation because it requires a minimum lot area of 650 square meters and a minimum lot width of 18 meters. So the parcel would be unable to meet those requirements for minimum lot width and depth. However, under the proposed zoning of RSD1, they would be able to add an additional lot under the zone because of the minimum lot area requirement would be reduced to 460. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. I understand that Trevor Goodman would like to speak to the public hearing.
I put my name, Madam Mayor, on the list in case I was called upon to speak, but I think Joanne said everything that I needed to say right there. It's a pretty straightforward lot that's not been used, never been developed. It's natural, it's in a beautiful spot, has a nice orchard behind, potentially a view of the lake over, and I'm just gonna do my best to build 2 beautiful houses and add some value to the neighborhood.
Great, thank you so much. Council, do you have any questions of Joanne or Mr. Goodman? Councillor Barkwell.
Does the subdivision of this lot require taking any distance off the front for road allowance and sidewalk or anything? Reducing the eventual size of the lots?
We've got Bobby in the audience. He can actually answer that for you.
Yeah, through your worship. I don't know if this particular application requires it. It would be measured 8 meters from center line to accommodate the 16-meter road right of way for a local road.
Do you have a follow-up question, Councillor Barkwell?
Well, I'm guessing that the answer is we don't know the eventual square footage of the lots if we don't know whether it's 8 meters from the center of the road to the front of the lot line.
Okay, I'll just defer to Brad for that.
Yeah, so we have a provision in our zoning bylaw that allows the consideration of setbacks and size before we take road allowance. It's kind of an exception within our zoning bylaw, recognizing that we are taking that land from these lots. So you're allowed to include that area that was provided for on that parcel before it got subdivided, and include that in your setbacks as well as your size before we take that road allowance, because we don't want to punish people if we're taking that land from them for the purposes of getting additional right of way.
I have a question as well. Where it shows in our zoning comparison, so in the chart, it speaks to accessory buildings. Is a carriage house considered an accessory building?
It is there is accessory uses include accessory buildings and structures, and then there's also carriage houses as a separate use that are within accessory buildings. if that makes sense there. So they're different uses, but a carriage house is within an accessory building, which is a detached building from the main house.
Okay, so so I guess my question is beyond that, thanks for that answer, is that if there is a garage there and a carriage home or suite is put above that, there could be 2 homes plus 2 carriage houses on this property, on each of these lots? Or is there not room for that in the lot size? Thank you.
Yeah, I could take that one. Potentially, there is already currently within the RSD2 zone, the ability to place a carriage house on this property. There might be the potential to have carriage homes on 2 future lots, but there's been no indication from the developer that they're planning to do that.
Okay. Is it fair to ask the developer that question?
Happy to answer that, Madam Mayor. It's not my intention to put a carriage house on either one of the new proposed lots.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, any other questions, Council? All right, is there anybody in the gallery that would like to speak on this public hearing number 1? I'll ask a second time, is there anybody that would like to speak to public hearing number 1? And a third and final time, anyone like to speak to public hearing number 1? Okay, I will declare public hearing number 1 closed. On to public hearing number 2, which is 5.1, official community plan amendment for 13609 Dixon Avenue, bylaw number 2022-027, and zoning bylaw amendment 13609 Dixon Avenue, bylaw number 2022-028, Z22-009.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the purpose of the official community plan amendment bylaw and zoning amendment bylaw, subject to this public hearing, is to facilitate a high-density residential development with healthcare facilities at 13609 Dixon Avenue. The OCP amendment would change the future land use designation of that subject property from medium-density residential to high-density residential. And the zoning amendment bylaw would change the zoning of that property from medium density residential zone to a site specific high density residential zone. The subject property is currently zoned RMD, residential medium density, and is designated in the OCP as medium density residential. So there are 2 bylaws that are subject to this public hearing. So one of the bylaws seeks to amend the official community plan, and this amendment bylaw is requesting to change the future land use designation of the property from medium density residential to high density residential. And in the OCP, there is criteria for evaluating new high-density residential designations. So this criteria includes locating higher density near the downtown and having compatible development with good road and pedestrian connections, among other things. The OCP also seeks to improve affordable housing options in general and also within the downtown area. This proposal aligns with recently endorsed downtown neighborhood action plan, where the property is identified for high density and where the plan acknowledges that there are compatible commercial uses like healthcare facilities that can occur within those high density areas. The other bylaw subject to this public hearing seeks to amend the zoning bylaw. So this amendment bylaw would change the zoning of the property from RMD to a site-specific RHD residential high-density zone. The site-specific provisions would allow for health services, including an ancillary pharmacy use, as well as a major daycare. And it would also include a parking reduction for the apartment use to allow for 1 per dwelling unit. The proposed site-specific high-density residential zone would add permitted uses, and those are shown in bold. So this includes cluster housing for apartments and townhouses, healthcare services, a ancillary pharmacy, and major healthcare center. And then there's also some uses that would be removed from being allowed on that particular property, and those include lower density uses such as duplexes and cluster housing of single detached duplexes and townhouses. In comparing the existing zoning with the one that is being proposed, there is an increase in the allowable lot coverage from 40 to 50%, and an increase in the allowable floor area ratio from a base of 0.6 to 1.2, and also an increase in height from 3 to 4 stories. There's also a change in the setbacks, requiring larger setbacks for buildings over 2 stories in the proposed zone. So these proposed bylaws are seeking to facilitate an affordable rental housing project with a primary healthcare center. So the applicant has provided a concept plan for a 4-story building to demonstrate the suitability of the site. So this includes health offices on the ground floor and affordable rental housing above. This property has been identified as one of the 2 preferred locations in the district's primary healthcare feasibility study, and this concept includes health offices that would align with that. However, if the site was not the preferred location, health services are still considered appropriate for the site, and there's also provision for that space to potentially be utilized for other uses, such as a daycare facility. The concept plan includes 81 apartment units on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor, and a common amenity area, rooftop patio above. Parking's located under the building in the parking garage, and also behind the building as surface area parking. As part of the bylaw request, there is a provision to reduce the minimum parking spaces required to allow a minimum of 1 per dwelling unit. So for apartment housing under the bylaw, currently there's a varied calculation depending on the number of bedrooms per unit. So it ranges from 1 parking stall for a studio up to 2 for something that has 3 or more bedrooms. There's also visitor parking requirement of 1 per 10 units. So this amendment would allow for a site-specific provision to reduce that number for the residential component to be 1 per dwelling unit. And the concept plan that was provided includes 111 parking stalls to satisfy the residential parking under that 1 per unit provision, as well as the commercial area. So in summary, the OCP amendment bylaw would allow for further residential densification near the downtown through a high-density residential designation, and the zoning amendment bylaw would allow for higher density apartments, health services, an ancillary pharmacy, and a major daycare center, as well as the reduced parking requirement to help facilitate the proposed conceptual design of the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. I know the applicants are in the gallery with us. Did you want to do a presentation, or? Okay, and again, I'll if council has questions of you, then I'll invite you up to the podium. Thank you. Okay. Council, do you have any questions of the applicant? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question to Joanne, if I may. This project is an obtainable housing project for seniors, correct? Okay, just for clarification, just so everybody in the gallery knows it's a seniors housing project. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
55 plus, right? Thank you. Is there any other questions from council? I get another opportunity after we hear from anyone in the public that cares to speak. Is there anyone that would like to come to the podium to speak on public hearing number 2?
Nobody listed on the list?
There is no one listed on my list.
How's that? Dean Skoreko, number 13, 13707 Dixon Ave. I'm an owner, but I'm also the president of the Strata, and we fiercely oppose this development as planned. And I'm kind of actually alarmed that there was no questions whatsoever about what this development is going to do to our neighborhood. You just heard there's going to be 110 parking spots on that facility alone. You didn't ask how many cars a day were going to come on that road. Dixon Ave's a back alley. We don't even get snowplow at services at this moment. There's no sidewalks. Where is 300 cars plus going to manage on that road a day? I'm actually kind of stunned. I thought there was going to be more questions. It seems like this is a done deal and we're just going to go through the motions now. Is that where we're at?
That is not where we're at, sir. This is a public hearing, and it is open to the to the public, and we would like to hear from as many members of the public as we possibly can at the public hearing.
So as a representative of the Strata,
Could you give us an idea what strata you're referring to?
Cedar Estates, 13707. Have you been to the property, ma'am?
I have not been to Cedar Estates, but yes, I have.
We're right
been.
beside Legion Village.
Yes, I
right
know
beside.
exactly where Legion Village
So when
is.
they build this 4-story monolith, my apartment, my townhouse goes into dark from probably December to January, no daylight. That's how close it is, and that's how invasive it is. How that could be even possibly allowed is, again, stunning. My view completely ruined. You should come by. Come by. We've offered. Come by and I'll give you a tour of that road. See if you can put 300 cars on that road.
Could I ask you a question, Mr.
Sure.
Skoriko? You've mentioned a couple of times that you're on the strata
Yeah,
of Cedar Estates.
I'm the president, yes.
President of the strata. Are you speaking on behalf of the strata as president, or are you speaking as for yourself as
Both.
an individual?
Both.
So you're representing the strata
I
as
am
well?
representing the owners of the Strata, yes.
Okay.
No questions?
Not at this time. I want to see if there's anyone else that wants to speak as well. Is there anyone else in the gallery that would like to speak to public hearing number 2? And for the third and final time, I'll ask again, is there anyone that would like to speak to this?
Thank you, Your Worship. Harry O'Neill, unit number 12, 13707 Dixon Avenue. So I'm right in the center of this proposed development. I agree with what the speaker just said. Has the council made any attempt to look at how much traffic Dixon Avenue could support? Dixon Avenue is not a through street. It ends on one side with Jubilee and on the other with Quinpool. It's only 1 block long. I would like council to look into the feasibility of that many vehicles being on that road. And I would also invite anybody on council to come and sit on my back porch and look at the view I have right now that won't be there after this is developed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask one final time. Is there anyone that would like to speak to public hearing number 2? Okay, now I see that Mr. Scarico has left the gallery. Does anyone have any questions for either Ian or Charmaine or Mr. O'Neill? Any questions? Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question for staff. In the last couple speakers, they raised a concern about the state of Dixon Road and the traffic on there. I'm just wondering, will there be sidewalks, improvements to the road? What is the plan when this gets built? Thank you.
So definitely, we at the staff level, we also recognize the current state of Dixon Avenue, and it being an area of concern, and also an area that requires improvement. With a multifamily development permit in Summerland, we require conformance to our subdivision and development servicing bylaw, which would mean reconstruction of the road to the center line of the road from the Dixon Ave property. So that would be a new curb and gutter, asphalt, as well as a sidewalk extension in conformance with our bylaw, as well as on-street parking, which currently there is none because the current road right-of-way width isn't sufficient size. So those are all things that will be required in accordance with our subdivision development servicing bylaw. I think there's still perhaps additional discussion that probably needs to occur with both council and perhaps as well the developer for potential connection to get to the downtown core. I think that there might be value in that, given its proximity to the downtown, for a sidewalk in particular. But other than that, no, the developer will be required to construct up to the center line of the road.
Thank you. Just to follow that, it brought up a point. When you drive Jubilee between the four-way stop and, say, heading up Sinclair, there are no pedestrian crossings. There's nowhere there where it is possible to cross. So I would just suggest that staff review that and determine if this were to go ahead, how do we ensure people can get safely across the street on Jubilee? Thank you.
Any other questions of staff that relate to the OCP or zoning amendment? All right, I will close public hearing number 2. And welcome to the regular council meeting of August the 22nd. Obviously, this is the evening council meeting. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming. I'll just let folks leave the room here. There we go, I'll start again. Welcome to the evening regular council meeting of August the 22nd. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically. Oh, excuse me, that's my alarm going off. I'm late. So embarrassing. Okay, let's just turn this off. There we go. Okay, I'm not going to start for a third time. Members of the public may access the meeting or participate in the following ways. 1, you can attend council chambers in person, as many of you have done. If you wish to attend council chambers in person, you may do so by registering in advance of the meeting, by contacting the corporate officer at corporateofficer@summerland.ca to ensure there's enough space in council chambers. You can watch the meeting live or recorded by watching the District of Summerland YouTube channel at youtube.com District of Summerland, live or recorded. Thirdly, you can register in advance to speak during the meeting. Members of the public who wish to provide comment during the public comment opportunities found under items 8 and 15 are asked to register in advance by contacting the corporate officer at corporateofficer@summerland.ca with the following information: your name, your civic address, and how you will be participating in person, on the telephone, or by Zoom. Further details will be given to you as you register. The fourth way is to request to speak during the meeting. Those who have not registered in advance but wish to speak during the public comment opportunities may be given the opportunity, time permitting. After I have provided everyone who has pre-registered with an opportunity to comment, the floor will be open to those in council chambers and those on the conference line. The conference line can be accessed by dialing 778-907-2071 and entering meeting ID 506-489-9374 and passcode 485186. Corporate Officer, are there any late items to introduce? Great, thank you. Council, adoption of the agenda as presented, please. Councillor Barkwell, Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you. And adoption of the minutes of the July 25th, 2022 public hearing and the July 25th, 2022 regular evening council meeting. Councillor Van Elfen, second. Councillor Holmes, thank you. All in favor? Great. Now moving on to the bylaws from the public hearing, beginning with 5.1 zoning bylaw amendment 1506 Laidlaw Street, bylaw number 2022-025. So this is to consider third reading. You wanted to bring this forward, or you have a question for new information?
I'd be happy to bring it forward, Madam Mayor. The zoning bylaw amendment 1506 Laidlaw Street, bylaw number 2022-025 be read a third time.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Holmes, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The reason I asked the question about the amount of area that would have to be given up for road widening with that subdivision is that one of the correspondence that we received really made me kind of pause and reflect on this subdivision and how it would fit with the character of the neighborhood and such, notwithstanding our drive for increased density, to have one or lot split into two in a neighborhood where everything else is much larger, you know, might appear out of place. And so I looked at and so although the zoning for this lot will be fairly small, I don't have the number in front of me at the moment. Is there in the public hearing? It's going to be quite a bit above the minimum, and it looks like about 36 square feet will be taken off. It looks like the road is 6 feet or 12 meters wide now. So then if it's got to be 8 feet from the center line, that'll take 2 feet off the frontage. And for the length of the lot, which is going to be 18 meters, which is still pretty consistent with the RSD2. So in the end, and this is a long story, in the end, I'm going to go along with this subdivision, recognizing that it's a little bit dense for that area, but it is still a good portion, a good amount above the minimums and closer to the actual RSD2 standard that all the other lots in the area have.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Councillor Holmes.
I'd say, you know, it might be a little dense for Laidlaw, but you just go down the street to Nixon and it fits in completely. So I don't have a problem with it. Thanks.
Did you have your hand up? No. Councillor Barkwell.
Actually, you raise a point that I was going to bring up. Nixon, we went with quite a bit of density, but that's for a whole area, right? That's not 2 lots, 1 lot split into 2 in the middle of a bunch of others. That's for its own little, well, 20, what was it, 23 lots. So I make a distinction there on that.
Okay, any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And none opposed. Thank you, that carries. Second bylaw from the public hearing number 2, official community plan amendment 13609 Dixon Avenue, bylaw number 2022-027, and zoning bylaw amendment 13609 Dixon Avenue, bylaw number 2022-028. Councillor Carlson.
Just before we get into this, I just had a question regarding correspondence received. I note that in the public hearing correspondence, there was only 1 letter from the neighbors at Cedar Estate. I just want to confirm that there was no more that somehow was missed.
Through the mayor to Councillor Carlson, so we actively monitor it, and Dallas is actually online now. So if that's all we received, that's all that would be in there.
Thank you.
Okay, would someone like to bring forward the motion, please? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That the official community plan amendment 13609 Dixon Avenue bylaw number 2022-027 be read a 3rd time. And that zoning bylaw amendment 13609 Dixon Avenue bylaw number 2022-028 be read a 3rd time.
Thank you. Further discussion, Councillor Holmes. Oh, sorry. Thank you for catching me on that. Second. Further discussion?
Just a question on process, if I could, Madam Mayor. Would everybody in that strata have received individual letters, or would there just be 1 letter about the project sent to the developer or to the strata? Or,
Everybody with a unit within that would have been directly mailed the notification. So
Okay.
it was for all of the property addresses receiving mail to
Right.
property owners.
okay, thanks.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I can't find it off the top of my head, but there was 1 letter from the property south of the Legion Village. That was a letter of support and made reference to rat-infested Legion Village, old, dilapidated, and I just think this is something that a huge upgrade in the area, and hopefully they can work with the roads and I think it's a real positive. But there was 1 positive piece of correspondence. Thank you.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't here during the meeting when this was first presented, but I do want to say I'm excited that this is going forward. I think that the collaboration between Parkdale and community partners is going to be exactly what needs to happen. So I'm in favor of this, and I wish them all the best to try and get this done in a timely manner, because I know the community is getting very excited to see this happen.
Yes, especially that these will be attainable housing units, so desperately needed in Summerland. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I appreciate the speakers speaking today, and I understand that it might not be the ideal location, but I think really there's no place in Summerland that would be an ideal location for a building like this. And we really need this building. We really need affordable housing for our seniors. We really need a primary care clinic, and we need that primary care clinic so that we can attract new doctors to Summerland and stop losing doctors from the community. I think the goal ought to be everyone in Summerland should have a family doctor, and so that's all part of it. And there's no better place for either one of them. as far as I can see. So I think I think the whole community will get behind it. Thanks.
Councillor Van Elfen?
Councillor Holmes summed it up. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right. So is there any more discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? And none opposed. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. All right, I'll move on to item 6, the mayor's report. It has been almost a full month since our last day of regular council meetings. On August the 3rd, Interior Health hosted another mayors and regional district chairs roundtable focusing on 4 items: a COVID-19 update and the upcoming flu season, staffing challenges within Interior Health, monkeypox, and hot summer temperatures and how to best prepare our communities for the heat. August the 4th, I was part of the judging panel for this year's Community Energy Association Climate and Energy Action Awards in the Climate Adaptation category. You may recall that the District of Summerland won in the Community Planning and Development / Corporate Operations category in 2021. Winners will be announced during an award ceremony at next month's Union of BC Municipalities UBCM convention. And no, I did not participate in the judging last year when we won the corporate operations category. I attended the sneak peek event of the 7th annual Riga Arts Festival on August the 9th at Lunescence Winery. Such a beautiful outdoor venue to hear and see snippets of what to expect during the 2022 festival that ran from August the 13th to the 21st. I volunteered at 3 events this past week on August 15th, 19th, and 20th. Some events are ticketed to cover cost of the performance, but many, thanks to strong local and government support, so that's government support at all 3 levels of government, many of these events were pay what you can. I had a meeting with Interior Health's South Okanagan Clinical Operations Director for Home Health on August the 10th to discuss the challenges being faced by IH about community programs, staffing, once again, and housing. While the challenges exist, they are not insurmountable, and working with the district is, I think, a good way to address our shared concerns more actively. I am wishing, and I know that on behalf of council, I will wish everyone an enjoyable and safe Labor Day weekend. It's back to school time, but there are still many events and activities to enjoy in Summerland. In September alone, the Skaha Kennel Club 2022 All Breed Show is being held at Dale Meadows from September the 2nd to the 5th. The Endless Summer Show and Shine returns to Memorial Park on September the 10th, and Summerland Fall Fair takes place in and around the Summerland Museum and the George Riga Arts and Culture Center, also on September the 10th. Also, the Summerland Rodeo Grounds host the Endurance Riders September the 9th to 11th, and the BC Bike Race September the 26th. And don't forget the Terry Fox Run on September the 18th. So if you ride a horse or you ride a bike or you want to move about town on your own 2 feet, there's lots of stuff for you to do as we move through September. Due to the 2022 UBCM convention on September the 12th to 15th, the next regular meeting of council will be on Monday, September the 26th. And that's it for tonight. CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our council-approved water utility emergency response plan is proving to be an effective tool in the management of water-related issues this summer. When Environment Canada released its heat warning in July, demand on the water treatment plant was very high, but using the plan, we engaged our voluntary list of large water users to request some changes to their water use. And through collaboration, we saw an immediate drop in demand, taking pressure off the plant. In the early hours of Saturday, August 13th, the source water for the plant in Trout Creek was seeing very high levels of turbidity. At the time, it was unknown what was causing the turbidity, which was a magnitude higher than anything we've seen before. Thanks to the quick action of water treatment plant staff, following this plan, the intake was closed to protect the reservoir, and we asked the community to limit their use to drinking water needs only. Demand on the plant decreased almost immediately by 50%, and within 8 hours, the issue was diagnosed and regular water use was restored in the community. On the theme of water, the fill stations have now been installed at the Memorial Park washrooms and Rotary Beach washrooms, and the equivalent of many thousands of water bottles have already been dispersed by the stations. These two fill stations complement the one that exists at the Aquatic Center, and all three have been communicated to the public through Facebook, the website, and our newsletter. In addition, a misting station has been installed at the Memorial Park washroom. When we received the heat warnings, we worked with the Chamber of Commerce to profile locations in the business community that also provide misting, and we identified public areas in the community where people can go to cool off. A few upcoming dates for Council's awareness. The Aquatic and Fitness Center will be closed August 27th to September 11th for its annual maintenance. Fortis BC will be continuing their upgrades to the transmission system and electrical substation, resulting in planned community-wide outage from Friday, September 16th at 11 p.m. to the next morning at 6 a.m. Our third one-day recycling depot this year will be from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, September 17th at the Summerland Arena. And irrigation services will be turned off for the season beginning Tuesday, October 11th. However, those irrigators who desire to have their irrigation extended can fill out a request form and pay a small fee by Friday, October 7th to have that service extended. With that, I conclude my report.
Thank you. Council, any questions of our reports? Now on to item 8, which is the first of 2 public comment opportunities. And you are able to comment on anything on the agenda except not the variance matters that are before us tonight. Maximum 15 minutes and 2 minutes per speaker. And I will ask Kendra again if you can keep track of the time for us. Thank you. Is there anyone, I don't have anyone on the list. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak? That's correct, not for a variance. It's a legislative thing. We can't allow that. Anyone else? All right. Okay, so we will get on to the development reports with 9.1 development variance permit for 13017 Rosedale Avenue, DVP 22-011.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the district received a development variance permit application to vary the mixed use and dwelling regulations in the CB1 zone to allow for one dwelling unit to be located below the first story of a building and its non-residential uses. So a site plan has been provided to show that the parking requirements have been met. Just noting that there are no exterior renovations proposed, so the existing building will remain within the same footprint, which is shown on the plan here. So the proposed basement floor area includes renovation of the existing space to convert it into a 2-bedroom dwelling unit, approximately 73 square meters in area, with its own separate entrance at the side of the building. So there is parking on site to meet the parking requirements for the additional dwelling unit, as well as the commercial spaces above. However, the CB1 zone does allow for dwelling units to occur, but it has mixed use and dwelling regulations that apply to how those are sited within buildings. So dwellings are either allowed on the first story up to 40% of the floor area or above the first story. There isn't any allowance within the zoning bylaw to be located in the basement, so below those uses or below the ground floor. So this proposal has really no impact on the streetscape as there's no exterior renovations and it's simply repurposing the existing basement. The ground level will remain commercial space, so the intent of the regulations is still being upheld. And that purpose is to ensure that the downtown areas remain primarily commercial on the ground floor. And by locating under that ground floor as opposed to above, still achieves that same general purpose. So it is staff's recommendation to council to authorize issuance of the requested variances.
Thank you, Joanne. Council, do you have questions? All right, if there are no questions, would you like to bring it forward?
Well, the question is, do you
Oh,
really
sorry.
want me to read that?
Oh, I think you can do that.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll move the council authorize issuance of DVP 22-011 for property located at 13017 Rosedale Avenue, legally described as Lot A, District Lot 473ODYD, Plan 6277, except Plan KAP 91762. And that a variance to the following sections of zoning bylaw 2000-450 be granted. Mixed use and dwelling regulations, section 11.5.7b, to vary the requirement for a single dwelling unit to be located above the first story to allow a single dwelling to be located below the first story. Mixed use and dwelling regulations, section 11.57d, to vary the requirement for all apartments and dwelling units to be located on a separate story above the non-residential uses or on the same story as the non-residential uses to allow a single dwelling unit to be located below the non-residential uses.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Barkwell. Further discussion on this one? Call the question. All in favor? Great. Great use of space. One more home for someone in Summerland. On to the next development report, 9.2. Development variance permit for 12600 Blagbourne Avenue, DVP 22-012.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the district received a development variance permit application for 12600 Blagbourne Avenue, and this request includes several variances. So I'll be presenting the zoning bylaw variances, and then I'll hand it over to Bobby to review the variance request dealing with the subdivision and development servicing bylaw. So the purpose of these variances are to facilitate a 31 lot subdivision on the subject property. So the subdivision plan includes 31 lots and 2 dedicated park areas. So the new roads will be constructed. One is an extension of Blagbourne Avenue, and the other is called Road A on the plan and connects to Harvey. So the property is zoned RSD1, so it kind of has as a right permission to subdivide the new lots with a minimum lot area of 460 square meters. So the property is already zoned to allow for subdivision to occur into smaller lots. So the evaluation of the number of lots or the appropriateness of more housing on this property isn't the scope of this particular variance. It's for the 3 variance requests to be able to facilitate this particular subdivision design. So this plan includes 31 lots ranging in size from 464 square meters to ones that are over 1,000 square meters. So all of those meet that minimum lot area requirement. However, there's 2 zoning variances requested to accommodate their plan and their desired building sites. So one of those is specifically for proposed lot 11. Specifically, so lot 11 has a curved frontage, as you can see here. So the lot depth due to averaging is reduced due to that calculation. It does align with the rear of the other proposed lots along the new street, so it is consistent in that way. And it does have more lot area than what is required under the zoning, so it's a little bit wider and a little bit larger to be able to accommodate a buildable area with a slight reduction of the lot depth due to that curvature of the road. And they're requesting the lot depth minimum is 30 meters and are requesting 28.7 meters. The other zoning request applies to lots 11 through 19, which are displayed here. So these are interior lots within the subdivision, so abutting the new extension of Blackburn Avenue. So the request is to reduce the front setback for those lots from 6 meters to 3 meters. The topography of the site limits the buildable area, and this variance would allow for the houses to be located further close to Blackburn and away from the sloped lot. And since this is a new subdivision, you're essentially establishing a new streetscape where that would just simply be the standard for all of those lots along the same road frontage. So it would be fairly consistent. In terms of functionality, it is important to note that on-site parking is still requirement, and they would need to be within those proposed lots, not extending into the right-of-way. And the garage door setback that we have in our bylaw of 6 meters still applies. So they're not asking for a variance for 6 meters when they're proposing a garage door fronting the street. They're asking for other portions of the building to be closer to the street to accommodate a different building design. So if a garage is built, it has to be at least 6 meters from the property line, and that would allow for essentially a 6-meter driveway for people to drive vehicles into either park in front of or have some maneuvering when entering and exiting their personal garages. So the functionality of the on-site parking can still be maintained with this variance, and it would provide a consistent streetscape for all of those lots of 11 through 19. And those are the 2 variances for the zoning bylaw, and then I'll turn it over to Bobby to review the asphalt width reduction variance.
Thank you, Joanne, and good evening, Mayor and Council. So yeah, as Joanne mentioned, in addition to the 2 zoning bylaw variances that are before you today, there's also one request for variance to the subdivision and development servicing bylaw, and that is to reduce the width of the asphalt surface of the lower road, which on the plan is denoted as Road A. So yeah, to be specific, it's a variance to the SDS bylaw schedule C.3.3.10, which relates to highway cross section and under the local road drawing 100-6, which is reducing the asphalt width of the road from 8.7 meters to 6 meters in width. The proposed variance would create a sort of road standard consistent with a standard used in surrounding municipalities, commonly called the hillside road standard. Hillside standards are often employed in areas where natural topography make construction of roads particularly difficult. without mass destruction of natural landscape and habitat. Considerations for hillside standards can include a number of factors such as increased road grades, decreased right-of-way widths, and decreased asphalt widths. Benefits to this type of construction include more pervious area for precipitation to dissipate and less loss of potential habitat and natural landscape. Obviously, disadvantages include steeper and narrower roads. The applicant and their consultants have made significant efforts to make the proposal compliant with the SDS bylaw, as the maximum grades on each of the roads have been satisfied. None of them exceed the maximum grades, and they're actually still supplying the proper road right-of-way width for all of our utilities to be located within the corridors. All roads on the proposal include a sidewalk, and Lower Road A also includes a number of on-street parking stall bump outs to use for the parkland dedication that's adjacent to the lower road. And obviously only where grading permits, seeing as they are applying to reduce the width of the asphalt. The variance requested to reduce the asphalt width is required to offset the considerations made on the upper road or denoted on the plans as an extension of Blakeborn Avenue. The upper road meets the local road standard in all aspects, and therefore consideration and compensation needs to be considered to properly service Lower Road A. Lower Road A is still being provided with grades permitted by the bylaw, as well as the road right-of-way width prescribed by the bylaw. The requested reduced asphalt width is to facilitate the construction of the lower road without large retaining walls that could potentially require a variance. Using the reduced asphalt width, the applicant is able to build the road without the need for retaining walls over the height of 2 meters, which would require a variance and create a visual impact for properties backing on to the subject property. So this slide is a screenshot of the local road standard in our SDS bylaw. As you can see, the asphalt width includes 4.5 meters of driving lanes combined, as well as a 2.4 meter parking area on each side for on-street parking. So saying that, what the proposed variance is actually doing is removing the 2.4 meter parking area and increasing each travel lane by 0.75 meters, making the physical driving lane actually wider than what the local road allows for if there are vehicles parked in the parking lanes. So visually, it'll look narrower. Physically, there's more room to travel in the lanes, and where permitted, there are parking bump outs on that lower road where the variance is requested. Engineering drawing design review that is standard for all offsite improvements in the district of Summerland applied to all infrastructure that the district is going to take over to own and maintain. And that hasn't been completed yet, and rightfully so, until the applicant and their design team know what standard they're able to use. So upon initial review, based on the plans that have been provided, it would seem logical to only allow on-street parking in the bump out areas and have no parking signs where it cannot be accommodated by the asphalt width on that lower road where the variance is being requested. The standard on the screen is a hillside road standard that is used in surrounding municipalities, particularly Peachline and Penticton. And all considerations in this standard have been included on the plan submitted by the applicant and their consultants, and has been reflected in the variance application that is being considered tonight. The standard on the screen is an example of what staff are proposing to be Summerland's hillside standard for local roads within the draft SDS bylaw that we've been spending this last year on preparing. So as you can see, the 3 meter travel lane widths and a 2.4 meter parking bay. It's all very consistent with what they're proposing on the plans, as well as a 1.5 meter sidewalk, not only on that lower road A, but on the extension of Blakeborn Avenue as well. The 3 meter travel lanes, again, are an increase to the physical width of the travel lane provided by Summerland's local road standard, which is only 2.5 meters for each travel lane. The proposed variance was referred to internal staff and external agencies, and the only concerns were noted on the screen. Summerland's electrical utility noted that the boulevard width proposed is quite narrow along Lower Road A, fronting the proposed lots, which could make installation of utilities within this area difficult. The applicant has been made aware of the comment, and through the engineered drawing review, we will identify any conflicts with utilities. And the applicant has also agreed to provide a statutory right-of-way over any lots that require more area where the boulevard isn't potentially being provided to accommodate for any structures that need to be placed in there. Summerland's fire department noted that the reduced asphalt width could be cause for congestion with vehicles parking on the sides of the roads and not within the parking areas. So as a remedy, they also recommend no parking signs be installed where parking is not permitted. They also identify that the lower road is a through road, so that access or egress can be given from either direction. Both of these flagged comments can easily be accommodated through the engineering design review process. As you can see, the road is shifted towards the proposed lots, which are technically west. This combined with the reduced asphalt width is to accommodate road construction without significant retaining walls that could potentially require height variances along the opposite side of the road, backing onto the properties on Reynolds. Being able to construct the road without significant retaining walls was deemed beneficial and less impactful to neighboring properties to the east. In closing, staff recommend that DVP 22-021 be granted in full. Joanne and I and Brad can answer any questions that you may have. The applicant's agent is also on the line, Donna Butler, if you have any questions for her as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Councillor Barkwell.
2 questions, if I could, Madam Mayor. First question is, how high would the retaining walls have to be if they made the road to the standard width?
Yeah, through the chair. I don't think that they've gone that direction. Everyone in discussion of this development thought that it would be best to try to avoid that route, attempting to be less impactful to the neighbors to the east coming off Reynolds Ave. So I don't know if those numbers are available. Donna could comment if she knows. But at this point, they've provided this design without any requirement for retaining walls requiring a variance.
And the second question was...
Just 1 second. I just want to check with Ms. Butler. Did you want to comment on the possibility of retaining walls? Was there any discussion on that about sizing and things like that?
Yeah, unmute.
You got off mute for a moment and you're on mute again.
There, how's that?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, some of our initial designs had 2 retaining walls of 2 meters each. That what we felt was quite oppressive. That's why we moved the road over and in favor of a sloped hillside instead of 2 retaining walls.
Thank you.
And how do other communities, when they have the hillside standard in a subdivision, deal with the concerns of the fire department with, potentially people parking on the road where they're not supposed to park? which happens all the time? Do they just put up no parking signs and live with the issue, or?
Although the standard is fairly new to the District of Summerland, it's being used widely across the Okanagan and different communities, not just Beachland and Penticton, but also Vernon and Kelowna in hillside areas. I think our fire department may be a little bit not familiar with the standard, but the incorporation of the 2 travel lanes being a bit wider, plus the inclusion of parking pullouts, is very clear as to where parking can occur, where parking can occur with the delineation of the curb and how it jets in and out of from the travel lane. So it's very difficult for people to actually park in the travel lane. You'd be blocking the road. So it doesn't really happen. I've seen this standard applied in a lot of different other areas. It's just, again, we're not familiar with it here in Summerland yet at this point in time.
Okay, Councillor, I'll go to Councillor Carlson first and then Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you. I note that there are sidewalks included on one side of each road in the development. My question is, are there any further sidewalks? Are there any sidewalks that will improve the safety of, say, that hill on Blackbourn, or coming off around the corner just to keep people from being on roads that may become busier than they used to be?
Yeah, I can take that one too. I think that, yeah, we did have conversations about sidewalk connection and pedestrian connection from this development as part of this review process. It's difficult. You can't put that on the backs of this development proposal because it's not a rezoning or an OCP amendment. The zoning is in place as a community amenity contribution, for example. There is I think a sidewalk on one side of the road in our sidewalk master plan for Blakeborn, but it'd be up to the District of Summerland to initiate that based on a priority basis to connect down into Prairie Valley, I believe, from there.
I guess just to follow that I think it would be worth noting that if there's going to be a sidewalk built, it might be worth determining how much longer would that sidewalk be just to make it to that pedestrian pathway on Dark, where there used to be a road, there's no longer a road. It's a very commonly traveled path by people, so it would be something I think we should be paying attention to. Thank you.
Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question through to Bobby. No concerns with snow removal on this type of road construction?
Yeah, through the chair. The upper road, the extension of Blakeborn Avenue, is to the local road standard and the standard of road that is constructed throughout Summerland without questions asked. It's contained in the bylaw. The lower road, there could be concern for the sides against the lots. However, depending on the type of equipment that we use, we could push it to the opposite side where there's an increased boulevard width. So there was no concern raised by Public Works.
Thank you. And one more, if I may, Madam Mayor. In the plan, it shows park area dedication. Is developer planning on supplying park equipment? Thank you.
Yeah, I can answer that. Yes, we've had some conversations back and forth with the developer, and he is prepared to provide not only the land for parkland dedication, which is required under the Act, but also providing the equipment and also the trail construction to in the more I would say like environmentally sensitive park to the top of the cul-de-sac there as well, and the fencing as well. So that's definitely something that we've had a lot of back and forth on with our Parks Department as to what they're willing to accept as well, and what they'd like to see in this area. We recognize at the staff level that there isn't any other neighborhood parks in this area other than walking all the way to Memorial Park. So we saw this as an opportunity to establish a neighborhood park for the entire community, not just the 31 lot subdivision, but also the surrounding neighborhood.
Good, thank you. Councillor Holmes, do you have any questions? No. All right. So you've answered the one about the sidewalks. Thank you for asking that, Councillor Carlson. I have a couple of questions. With the road A being narrower, is that something that the fire department is okay with because it connects to Harvey? So like you mentioned that it's a through road, so that reduces the risk that there might be a traffic issue when there's should the emergency vehicles need to get in there?
Yeah, that's correct, Madam Mayor. So there's an opportunity for traffic within the development area to go to Harvey or out through Blackbourne. That combined with the option to have no parking signs installed along that lower road, it did satisfy their concerns.
Good, thank you. You spoke briefly about the draft subdivision services, development services bylaw. Is this particular proposed plan, does that fall within the, is it in compliance of what we have now for the draft subdivision bylaw?
Yeah, that's correct, Madam Mayor. It would be considered. We've changed in the draft, although it hasn't been adopted. Right. Requirements by area as opposed to zone, and this area is designated in that draft as a hillside area and would fall under the hillside road standards.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that, rather than have to fiddle with that afterwards. And the last question I had is, it's in the slides. Of course, I can't find the right thing here now. Here it is, presentation slides. If we look at the very first slide that shows the lot and the lot numbers, is kind of like a bird's eye view, and it shows the lot in yellow. It looks to me like there's a couple of existing homes in there. I don't know how old that aerial photo is, but are those already taken into consideration with this proposed plan? Or, what's going to happen to those houses?
Yeah, I think Bobby or myself could take this question, but just answer that one quickly. There was some preliminary concepts of this initial subdivision plan that tried to create lines around the existing homes, because one of them is quite substantial. It's their primary residence, but upon understanding of the differences in grading that will have to occur to accommodate this subdivision, the developer decided to abandon that plan and to go forward with just a demolition of those existing structures and then constructing a new subdivision.
Okay, thank you. And those are the questions I had. Any other questions? Would you like to bring this forward, Councillor Van Elfen?
As presented. The council.
Good try, sir.
That council authorized issuance of development variance permit DVP 22-012 for properties located at 12600 Blackbourne Avenue, legally described as Lot 2, District Lot 474, Osoyoos Division, Yale. District Plan 5468, and that a variance to the following sections of zoning bylaw 2000-450 be granted. Minimum lot depth, section 10.1.4C, to vary the minimum lot depth from 30 meters to 28.7 meters proposed. Minimum front setback, section 10.1.6 AI, to vary the minimum front setback from 6 meters to 3 meters. for lots 11 to 19 proposed, and that a variance to the following section of subdivision and service bylaw number 99.004 be granted to vary the asphalt width prescribed in section C.3.3.10 highway cross section under typical cross sections local 100-6 from 8.7 meters to 6 meters.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Holmes. Further discussion on this? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I just like to say, I don't think we have to be too worried about this different road design. I know it's unusual for Summerland, but you know, it's not, as was said, it's not unusual for the Okanagan. If you go to Kelowna, I mean, that's how they've developed their hillsides there. You've got a West Dilworth, you know, Mine Hill, all these kind of subdivisions. They're all roads like this, and I think that's kind of the way you have to do it. So I'm in support. Thank you.
Okay. Do you comment?
Just a comment, Madam Mayor. I'm just, this is another great opportunity for the district of Summerland. You know, this amount of homes going in one area, you know, the 2 park dedications, I'm excited about this, and especially in the areas close to schools. It's walking distance to our downtown core and to schools and amenities. So I just think it's a real plus. And again, more product on the market means, you know, hopefully lower costs here and there. So thank you.
Great. All in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Barkle, you're opposed? Okay. All right, so that carries. 9.3, official community plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for 11709 Mott Street. Z22-011.
All righty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the district received an official community plan amendment and rezoning application to facilitate a 2-lot subdivision at 11709 Mott Street. So the subject property here is zoned residential medium lot RSD1 and is designated in the OCP as low density residential. The proposed official community plan amendment bylaw is to change the designation of a portion of the property from low density residential to low density residential intensification. And the other portion of the property would remain as low density residential. The proposed zoning amendment bylaw is to change the zoning designation of part of the property from RSD1 residential medium lot to RSD1I residential single detached intensive zone. So the main purpose main difference between the RSD1 zone and the RSD1I zone are the subdivision requirements. So the RSD1I zone allows for smaller minimum lot sizes, smaller lot depths, and smaller widths with density bonusing. There's also an increase in the maximum floor area ratio that is allowed between the 2 zones, so increasing from 0.45 to 0.5. So the applicant is wishing to subdivide the property into 2 lots and has provided a conceptual plan shown here. So proposed lot A would meet the subdivision standards for the RSD1 zone and would remain under the existing zoning. The proposed lot B would be what would be subject to the rezoning due to the proposed lot size being 366 square meters. So council may recall the recent approval of a variance to allow for the existing house that is centered on the lot to be relocated closer to Mott Street as part of a larger plan to subdivide the property and then build a house on lot A and then convert that existing house to a carriage house. So in the official community plan, low-density residential intensification is intended for infill within mature neighborhoods in areas that have servicing and are within walking distance to amenities. There's also criteria for appropriateness. So that criteria includes consideration of visual impacts, maximizing integration into the neighborhood, also consideration for loss of privacy, sunlight to neighbors, promotion of walkability, tree retention, and addressing both streets in design on corner lots. So in this case, this property is within a 10-minute walk to downtown. So the criteria kind of describes a 5-minute walk. So this is pushing the boundaries of that criteria, but is still very walkable to come to downtown, into the downtown core. And it is in an established service neighborhood that's within our urban growth boundary. So this is this type of infill development promotes compact communities and would increase the density of that property to approximately 22 units per hectare for more efficient land use, which is something that is in line with low density of residential areas within the OCP. So the new lots would be fronting Durick Avenue and be oriented in the same way as the other established lots on the street. So the front yards would align with other front yards and rear yards with other rear yards. The Mott Street frontage would be addressed through that relocation of the existing house to be the carriage house facing Mott Street to create, orient towards Mott Street, as well as having buildings that are facing and creating a connection to Durick Avenue. So this application was reviewed by the Advisory Planning Commission. So there were a couple of questions about the OCP policies, one of them being whether it was appropriate to consider a one-off scenario. And then there's also questions about that walking distance between the 5-minute walk and the 10-minute walk to downtown, and what was appropriate for more intense infill. And then, of course, there's questions about parking requirements. So there would be, for a house, 2 parking stalls required. If there's the carriage house, then that would require an additional on-site parking stall. And in terms of the comments about the low density residential intensification designation, it is something that is set up basically in our OCP to be considered on a case-by-case basis. So it is kind of one-off scenarios, one at a time, considering the appropriateness for things like walking distance and infill into neighborhoods and connectivity and things like that. So that essentially is the process that we've designed in the OCP to require this official community plan amendment when asking for that RSD1I zone and bringing it forward for public discussion. So after their discussion, the APC supported the amendment bylaws. And as you've read in the report, staff is supportive of the application and is seeking and is recommending that council provide first and second readings of the proposed official community plan amendment bylaw and zoning amendment bylaw, and that a public hearing be scheduled in September for those bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Questions for Joanne on this one? Councillor Barkwell, would you like to take a run at reading the the motion? Oh, sorry.
Okay, so oh, it's not a bad one. I move that the official community plan amendment bylaw number 2022-029 be read a first and second time, and that the process as outlined in this report from planner 2022 dated August 22nd, 2022 be considered appropriate consultation for the purpose of Section 475 of the Local Government Act, and that zoning amendment bylaw number 2022-30 be read a first and second time, and that a public hearing be held on September 26, 2022 to receive public feedback on the official community plan amendment bylaw number 2022-29 and zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 2022-30.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Van Elfen. Comments, discussion on this one? I think it's a great use of a corner lot. One more home. Well, I guess two more homes. All right. Call the question. All in favor? And none opposed. That's unanimous. And the final development item tonight, 9.4, July 22nd, July 2022 Development Services Report.
I think we lost control of our slides over there. Thanks, Kendra. Yeah, well, anyways, I'll get going as that comes up. As council's aware, I'm in front of you again every month to present our development activities report from the previous month, being July of 2022. Let's scroll to the next one here. So for planning applications, we're now up to a total of 51 total planning applications for the year to the end of July 2022. This total brings us on pace with previous years for the total number of applications. But as I presented to council before, there are some differences from previous years in terms of the complexity of the planning applications that we're receiving. We're almost at our total year amount for rezoning and OCP amendments from the last few years. But the number of development variance permits are down significantly from years prior at this time of year. I do want to mention too to council that just recently over the last few months, the planning department has undergone some recent transition with the loss of our planning technician as well as our development services secretary. Both have moved closer to the Lower Mainland, and actually I just want to mention as well, last week, Joanne PG gave notice as well, and she's been now going to be leaving us for the regional district of Kootenay Boundary. We do wish her well, and thank you for all her efforts the last year and a little bit since you've been with the district of Summerland. So I just wanted to put a plug in for Joanne because this will be her last council meeting tonight. So I do want to mention, though, that we are excited to welcome new staff. We're going to be assuming the positions of planning tech in early September, as well as our new secretary started today with our department. So going to be hopefully a smooth transition. For building permits, we're up to 33,737,000 for the total year. The month of July saw 16 building permits totaled with a construction value of 2.738 million. Just want to mention here that our total number of building permits is up on from previous years from our average from year to date. We average around 120 by this point in past years, and we're already up to 153 building permits for this year. For bylaw enforcement, we've opened a total of 94 bylaw enforcement files in July. Majority of these files were related to two bylaws of the District of Summerland, so traffic as well as our new good neighbor bylaw that was adopted last year. Generally, in the warm summer months, do generate more traffic concerns around our beaches and park areas down in the Lower Town area as well. So that is to be somewhat expected. I also want to mention too, in terms of transition, we've had our new, well, not new necessarily, but a new to full-time role, Darren Krell, start with us in July in his full-time role when he was previously in his part-time role. So I want to congratulate Darren for accepting that role with us. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Oh, I do want to mention too, one item on the bylaw enforcement team is that we're continuing our joint patrols with the Conservation Office of BC of bear awareness. You can see the signs throughout town still. We're still talking to landowners during the nighttime, evening garbage times before the day before to remind people to keep their garbages inside till the morning of, to prevent any bears coming to their properties. Thank you.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Your previous slide, it showed a bylaw infraction, riparian area regs. Has that been resolved? At the top, second down.
I'm not too sure offhand which file that is.
Okay.
I'll have to get back to you.
Appreciate that. And then
Okay.
if I can follow up, Madam Mayor, development applications activity comparisons, 2022-5 ALC applications. Is that to do with secondary dwellings on farmland? Are we seeing uptake on that, or people like, trying to get in the queue, so to speak?
Oh, for the secondary dwellings, it doesn't trigger an actual application to the ALC if you're within that 90 meters squared. So if it was a secondary dwelling proposed on an agricultural property, you wouldn't see it in those stats. You would see it in the building permit stats, but not in that. Those are non-farm use applications primarily. We've got a few of them going to be coming forward. Temporary farm worker accommodation, as an example, would go through the ALC. We've had a few this year as well. Yeah.
Any other questions, Council? I'm sorry that you're leaving. How am I going to finish those jigsaw puzzles without you here? All right. So can we have to receive for information? Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Barkwell, all in favor? Great, thank you. 10.1, this is simply for adoption, the official community plan amendment bylaw number 2022-002 and zoning bylaw amendment number 2022-023, and that's to update the policies, housing policies and regulations on ALR land or agricultural land.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That the official community plan amendment bylaw number 2022-022 be adopted, and that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 2022-023 be adopted.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you. Any notices of motion tonight? No. Okay. On to information items. 6 pieces of correspondence, including an invitation to the Summerland Fall Fair, September the 10th. Anything to bring forward, Councillor Carlson?
Just a thought that sort of gets triggered when you read the invitation from the Fall Fair is that there's a piece of land between the museum and Riga Arts Center, and it's a park, but it doesn't have a name. So it's just something maybe to keep in mind for future conversation. I don't think it has a name.
No, it doesn't have a name, but it's something that it keeps coming up to council, when we're talking about the Pierre family and kind of upgrading that whole area. So you're very right. Okay, so nothing there. I will also ask at the same time, that's okay to go on to the committee and commission and then receive them all at the same time, is it, Kendra? Yes, good. Okay, committee and commission minutes. I'm going to put my eyes on Councillor Van Elfen. He's on the Water Advisory Committee. There's 3 different reports there for May, June, and July.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The only one that really stands out for me is something that we'll have to look at in the future and have some future discussions on, that the committee is hopefully looking at chlorinating the irrigation water from the treatment facility in the Prairie Valley area. The part that was twinned originally. It's just a concern they have with the algae growth in the non-chlorinated agricultural pipes. So I just thought I'd bring that forward and this for further discussion in the future, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
It's good to know that. Thank you. So could I have someone bring forward the motion to accept correspondence and committee and commission minutes, please, for information? Thank you, Councillor Van Alphen. Seconder, Councillor Barkwell. All in favor? Thank you. Now for councillor reports. Councillor Carlson.
I don't have anything to report tonight. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Van Alphen.
Not a lot to report. I did express my, I don't know, would be excitement. I don't think that would be the right word, but to our CAO, I had a lot of comments about the Voyet, is that how it's pronounced? Anyways, the alert system. The day that we had the turbidity issues in Trout Creek, I had several farmers tell me that they had the alert and they went out and shut their irrigation systems off immediately. And they were so thankful. Like they just thought, what a wonderful tool for our community to have. And so people were really pleased. It worked well. And the only other thing is that Summerland Sunday Market is getting busier and busier, and it's a lot of fun. And a lot of tourists coming through, and having some interesting conversations with tourists and whatever. So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. And what I'm noticing is the number of people that stop to chat about, and they're new people in Summerland, like within the last year. I met someone not last weekend, the weekend before, that said, yeah, I've lived here for 2 weeks. So, yeah. And so, yeah, there's lots of people moving to Summerland and visiting Summerland. It's nice that it's open again, that kind of thing. It is a fun market. Okay, let's go to Councillor Barkwell. Nothing? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, also, I just like to say it's amazing how the community stepped up the Saturday before last to really reduce their water use because of the turbidity issue, and also appreciation to staff for all the work they did to get the water back flowing again so quickly. So I think that was a really all around, everybody deserves a lot of credit for what could have been. Well, it was really unknown. It was kind of weird because it's not really something I ever remember us facing before, and for something we had to face, we didn't really know what was going on. I think everybody pulled together, so that was great to see. And the Sunday market yesterday was vibrant. It's great to see the community happy again. I'd like to put a congratulations to the organizers of the Riga Arts Festival. It was great having it back to its kind of pre-pandemic stage, and it's all this vibrancy in the community is really nice to see. I was pretty tired on Saturday after volunteering and attending quite a few events during the course of the week, so that must have mean I had a pretty good time. Thanks.
Yep. Councillor Van Alphen.
Just one other thing quickly, Madam Mayor, is that when the alert came out about the water, I had several phone calls in Garnet Valley going, that's not us. And I'm going, no, it's not us. But we should shut our water off too, right? And I'm going, Yeah, maybe we should. And just to show that we all work together in Summerland, even though we are on a different system in Garnet Valley irrigation wise. But it was just nice to everybody plays together. Thank you.
It's all the same water, right? Yep, you're exactly right. I would like to pass on, I guess, on behalf of council, thank you for your leadership in developing that, you and your staff developing that emergency water response plan. It worked like a charm, and like you've been hearing from other councillors. So thank you for that. Okay, we're almost done now. 15 is our second public or media comment period. Is there anybody that would like to address council? I don't have anyone on my list. Mr. Besler? Nope, all right. So I'll call for adjournment then. Councillor Van Olfen, Councillor Barkwell, all in favor? Great, thank you.